But that is everything
What do
I
you mean
sold
you don't know?
out of the town of Weare last year.
But wait,
Any
let's
property
get
I had
let's get this cleared up, because you see, but we include the complex, the building, but only this hallway doesn't cut it with me. The quarry operation is part of lot 406, lot 71, right?
if you say so.
No, that's what you own.
It very well, I own a lot of property. I don't know all
Okay.
the lot. What I can say to you is 70,000 yards. Includes anything I sold on any property I have in this town, which is right there.
Okay, thank you. That's-
This concept was brought before us is to visit an asphalt plant to see what it is that we were talking about, because the first thing that came to mind was this big stinky facility with, gushing fumes and really being poor neighbor. What we saw when we visited the plant over in Pembroke was not that at all. There was a very clear article written by Annie Augustine in the Concord Monitor when she visited that plant and interviewed neighbors around it and so forth. And what we saw was a very clean facility. There was no emission from it at all, except for a little steam which you could barely see. There was no odor. We drove around it. We went to neighboring properties and so forth. So, I'm probably going to say that I'm not in favor of recommending this, but it's not because of the plant, because what I saw was not something that was objectionable at all in visiting that plant. Also, there's been a lot said tonight about the transportation of petroleum products. And again, we have so much transportation of petroleum products in the town already. We have 3 gas stations where tankers arrive with gasoline, which certainly is more threatening than any of the other products that we're talking about. We have fuel oil trucks running on River Road and every other road in town, delivering number 2 heating oil to our houses. Any one of those tumble into a river and create an ecological disaster. So, I just hate to see this held up as like this is some kind of a villainous thing, because everything that I've seen doesn't make it bad at all. And I think it's impossible for the whole town to go visit this asphalt plant and make a decision based on it. But we did do that as a beginning. And so I saw something that was not good. But it comes down to whether or not we're going to recommend this amendment tonight. And if it was an amendment that the board was in charge of, was creating, then we would be able to tinker with it. We'd be able to say, well, okay, we understand that, but if we change it to this, it will work. If we change it to this, it will be legal, and so forth. But the amendment before us has to go on the ballot exactly as
Statutory timelines, when we have to make this recommendation. Is that okay? Oh, I'm sorry. We have statutory time limits when the board has to make recommendations. And Naomi called me the other day about moving the meeting to here, possibly moving it to a later date. Well, we couldn't move it to a later date because we have to post it 10 days in advance. And if we post it today, 10 days from now would be too late. So we have to make a recommendation basically tonight. So that's what you meant by time limit. Our time is clock, calendar.
We have in this town is sort of a bipolar personality. On the one hand, all of us want to keep the town rural and residential and really nice, and on the other hand, we want lower property taxes, so we've really put a lot of things in the master plan that say we need some economic development in this town, and indeed, we have an economic development committee. So here's a businessman that comes along and says, hey guys, I have some economic development for you. And all of a sudden we say, oh my God. And we do that for a couple of reasons. I went on that tour with Tom, and I had the exact same opinion that I think many of you have. Asphalt plant, black, gooey, spreading all over from everywhere, like something from outer space. I don't want it anywhere near me. It's going to go into the river. it's gonna go into the water supply, my kids are gonna walk in it, and they'll leave tracks like Lucy in Africa. This is not something we want. I hope, regardless of what happens tonight or on the ballot, I hope each of you has an opportunity to go to the Pembroke plant and take a look at that. It doesn't do us any good as a practical matter because the people who are coming to buy your house won't go to the plant and they'll have the goo in their mind when they hear asphalt. And that's the reality. So from my point of view, even if it's the sweetest, most beautiful plant in the world, everybody loves to look at it, it will have a negative impact on property values primarily because of ignorance. That being said, I will be voting against, I will be voting to not recommend this tonight, but for a different reason. Those are some of the things that are floating around in my mind, but there is a major problem with the way this is drafted, and Chris indicated this when he acknowledged that this would apply only to his plant. We cannot, in all fairness to everybody in town, have zoning that's really for one property. That's not what zoning is all about. And one of the questions I was going to ask is how many other properties does this affect? Chris answered that question. I think if Chris wants to do this, he's got to go back to the drawing boards and get this thing improved so that it's something that the board could look at in a different light. And before the chairman closes me off completely, I want to thank each of you for coming. The fact that you got involved in this, I know why you did it. I would have been here if I were on your side of the table. But the point is, this is America, this is New Hampshire, this is Weare, and it's just the way it ought to be. And I don't know what the vote's going to be tonight, but if it doesn't go in your favor, this lady's going to have a petition there, and she's going to be standing at polls and making telephone calls, and that's what ought to happen also. So this is really democracy in action. Thank you for coming.
Do I hear a motion on Amendment 5? Nobody wants to say it.
I move to not recommend.
Second.
For the reason that I stated.
Don't we normally make recommendations to the author? Either way, ascertain the end result, whatever.
That's what was done. If you vote yes, you're voting to not recommend. If you're voting no, you're voting against it.
Excuse me, Craig, point of order. You need to appoint Danny Jean Roger.
Already did. As soon as Chuck wasn't even at the door yet, I did that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you speak up.
I was talking to her, that's why.
Okay. No, just, I didn't hear you, sorry.
That's okay, sorry. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Okay, the second. I think the recommendation should be made in that it's done in that you recommend this. Because normally when people are going to look at something, it's either recommended by the planning board or not recommended. So if it's stated in a positive fashion, when we say we don't recommend it, we clearly understand that. Rather than say a motion in the form of a negative term, that we don't recommend. And then to say we recommend it, we don't recommend.
Yes.
The language that appears on the warrant is one of two things. It says, quote, recommended by the planning board, unquote, or not recommended by the planning board, unquote.
Right.
So I understand Tom's motion to be, I move that we place the following recommendation on the article, on the warrant, not recommended by the planning board. That's the motion that I thought Tom made, and that's the motion that I thought I seconded.
That's what I heard. So, yes, those need to be well represented.
Right.
I thought. Any further discussion? You can help by yourself. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.